WV Uncommonplace. This podcast is a variety podcast that houses numerous series to cover mental health, empowerment, podcast framework, and various intimate theories to get to know the hosts. Along with occasional movies reviews and dives in pop culture with our event podcast episodes. The Uncommonplace digs into bringing guests on that stories don't fit the mold and are very different. WV stands for the great state of West Virginia, and every quarter we cover something in West Virginia. Stacey and myself, JR, are your hosts, so please come along for this venture to our uncommon place.
Welcome to West Virginia Uncommonplace, and I am JR, and it has been quite some time since we've had an interview. And today we have a North Carolina native with us today. And he's come here to tell us about a novel, to tell us about a show, to tell us about his life and what has gone on with him. His name is Tyler Wittkofsky, and I did not chop his last name up, audience. So Tyler, real quick, with the last name, where did that come from? I just want to know that off bat.
So it is Polish. It is actually Jewish Polish. They say that if a Polish person's last name ended in a Y, they were Jewish. If it ended in an I, they were Catholic. So.
Okay, and I get that. So you've heard the show before. The first question we always ask is, who are you? So before we get into that, I'd like to do this real quick. He is from the great state of North Carolina. North Carolina is a breeding ground for podcasters. So I want to tell you, thank you for coming on the show. And finally, I got somebody that's got an accent like mine so that it's not that different. Now, everybody knows, and this is one thing that I do throw in there, I am originally from Lynchburg, Virginia, hailing from Danville, Virginia on travels. So I come down 29, go down through Greensboro, and go all over North Carolina, even all the way over to Elizabeth City, which is crazy. So Tyler, the nostalgic question is, who are you? So please tell the audience who you are, and let's do something fun tonight or today. It is day. Let us know something interesting about yourself that no one else knows.
Fun. Okay, so I guess to start off with, I am a master of none, a jack of all trades, master of none, but you know what? That's better than a master of one, because I do a little bit of everything. I do podcasting, blogging, mental health advocacy. I'm an author, entrepreneur, and an award-winning marketing and communications professional. The biggest thing to know about me that nobody knows would be that I am actually colorblind. Yeah. So, and that's a lot of people are kind of like, what? Because I am in marketing and communications, and I do a lot of content creation and things like that. And people are like, how do you get the colors right and know that things match? And I rely a lot on color codes. So there's my big secret on how I'm able to do things colorblind, and that's kind of, I bring that up because that is such an important part of my story, is my resilience through facing mental illness and addiction and overcoming them to become this successful. Overcoming colorblindness is just one small step in the grand scheme of my life.
Okay. And I like that. And thank you for that. That's the first gem inside this episode. So your literary portfolio spans across multiple genres, from novels to poetry. How do you navigate the creative process when transitioning between different forms of storytelling? The reason I'm asking you this is because we used to do a thing called Author Circle on here. And to be able to do that, you have to be a different type of person. Like me, I wrote a book one time. It was about a girl that broke my heart. And I traveled all the way from Virginia to Alaska just to get my heart broken again. And then I told the story about how I went back home. So there's one book, and I had no direction. I just wrote it because I was hurt. So please tell us about the creative process and how you transition between the different forms of storytelling.
Yeah, my creative process really stems from a lot of plotting. I believe in taking everything and creating this universe inside of my head. That is a lot. I'm a fiction writer, so being able to create these fiction books of all genres. I've released a young adult mental health novel, a fantasy novel, a romance novel, a poetry collection. The poetry collection I'll get into in a minute. Um, and then I've got a women's historical fiction coming out in March of 2024. Uh, but the biggest thing for me is being able to create these universes and having something that inspires me and makes me feel like I'm in the story. So giving these characters a mental illness and allowing people to see that even gods and deities and successful people can have a mental illness, that you can overcome anything. That's what drives me forward in the creative process, is inspiring people. So I love creating this world, and I'm always been multi-genre because my grandmother was an English teacher and later my elementary school principal. And she was big on reading to me and telling me stories. And as an English teacher, she loved all kinds of fiction literature. And she would just read me all kinds of things, and I fell in love with it. And that's kind of how I got into the multi-genre aspect, was because of her. And her love for literature just inspired me to write. As for the poetry, I used that as an escape during 2012 through 2016, whenever I was going through undiagnosed mental illness and addiction. I was writing poetry as a way to cope with those illnesses. And after I published my first novella in 2019, and I saw a lot of success and people coming out to tell me that it inspired them, that's when I decided to, put out that poetry collection that I had built over those 4 years of my undiagnosed mental illness and addiction battles.
Okay. Okay. Now, going back to your debut novel, it has parentheses around it, correct? Not alone, right?
Yes.
In your romantic novel, The Seeds of Love, and you center these around mental health themes, and you did talk a little bit about it, but here's my question. How do you approach portraying mental illness in your writings while ensuring an authenticity to it and a sensitivity to it? Because the thing is that in our nature, me and you both were from the same age group to a certain degree. We were brought up a little tough. We weren't brought up with the idea of having transparency for sensitivity, if that's the best way to put it, without saying the harsh way that I could say it. So,
right.
How do you ensure, obviously the authenticity, I believe that comes from your experience, but enlighten us on your thoughts of how you approach mental illness in your writings and how you portray it, and, just how authentic it feels to you after it goes from your hand to the typewriter or computer or the paper, and the sensitivity levels, like the feelings that go in after you start and accomplish what you need to with both these works of art.
So I think, that's a great point, because you and I probably both grew up in around the 90s era.
Yes.
And, there was a lot of stigmatization around mental illness, among other things. But there was a lot of, and that in the South, especially, we saw a lot of that. And it was something that whenever I first was, coming out to write the story, it was never meant to be published. Not Alone was meant to be initially just a story from my grandmother, who I was living with at the time while I was waiting for my house to be built. And she wanted me to write her something. And that's all it was ever meant to be. And then she read it, and my wife read it, and other people in my life read it, like people close to me, my mom, my brother, my best friend. And they all told me, they're like, you need to publish this. This is so inspiring. And having these people in my life who knew about my mental illness and knew about the shame that I had about my mental illness because of my past, were now encouraging me to come out about my mental illness, was something that was really meaningful and powerful to me, that pushed me to that next level. So being able to ensure that there was authenticity, I wanted to run it by other people. A lot of it is lived experiences. A lot of it is, things that I have actually experienced. And being able to interpret that into paper is powerful, because it allows me to express myself in a way that I've never been able to express myself before. It allows me to put my story, quote unquote, about about my life onto paper and show my struggles, show my battles, and show that you can overcome it. Now, there are stories like Potent, my Enamored Echo series, book 1, That one is about Oberon and Titania from A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare, and Oberon is schizophrenic. So that one we ran through some sensitivity readers because I myself am not schizophrenic. So I did a lot of research and wanted to make sure I was portraying it okay. And, that is one thing that we get a lot of compliments on for that book is the portrayal of the schizophrenia. And so I was really proud of that one. And in the Principles, which is coming out, the main character, Wanda, has anxiety, which is something I live with. But it was, from a woman's point of view. So, excuse me. So we had to, I had to have my wife read it and made sure I got a female editor and let my grandma read it first, just so I was making sure that all the reactions were not a male dominated reaction towards a situation and more of a female perspective on a situation. Because let's face it, we all, males and females, and we all have different perspectives on life, and being able to recognize that is a strong suit for a writer, because you have to be willing to look into these different scenarios and get sensitivity readers, people who are willing to read your book and say, hey, this isn't quite right. And getting beta readers are great too.
Yes. And I thank you for that, because doing that orientation like that perspective, that's the key thing. That's another gem you dropped there. Being able to do that, you are going to inspire and help other writers with that thought pattern and that mode and mean. So tying over to your poetry collection, Coffee, Alcohol, and Heartbreak revolves around mental health-based problems. Like you said earlier, and these are mental health-based poems. So how, does this poetry serve as the medium for expressing and exploring mental health struggles and emotions inside yourself? And the reason, and it sounds similar to a question I just asked earlier, but the difference in this is this: poetry in writing something like if you're composing just like a prose or anything like that, it's a different intent, I believe. And you can express if it's not, if it's the same, then what you already told us about the writing style, it is different. So I'll take that back. When you write these poems, do they put you in a place where, man, I can feel good? Are they strong affirmations for you, or are they strong commandments that you follow?
I think it's a good mix of both. So whenever I'm writing poetry, it is more a raw form of expression. It is more from the soul rather than the heart, if that makes any sense. My writing is from the heart. I pour my heart out into it and want to take care of everybody else and make everybody else feel valued and give them hope and give them light. But the poetry comes from my soul. It's all about making me feel better. It's all about, being able to express myself in the most raw, pure form of passion that I can, and being able to recognize those two levels of your inner self is something that is especially hard with a mental illness, but is something that I've learned to do on this path to betterment. And poetry is something that I haven't had to use in such a long time, because it is one of those things that I use for the darkest moments of my life. I feel like that is when my poetry is the best, and that is what I specialize in, is that darker natured, 2 or 3 words per line, and just straight to the point, powerful words, and being able to express that. I'm glad that I'm not there, but I do miss writing poetry. But I'm glad I'm not in the darkness right now, because I do have a collection of poetry that grew from 2 years, a couple years ago, whenever I was going through some burnout from work. So I do have a collection growing that may come out in a couple years, depending on how my life goes. But I'm kind of hoping that I can avoid that one coming out for another maybe 5 or 10 years and avoid the darkness. So people are just going to have to wait until my life goes into flames again.
So that'll be something that could even be archival. Like it might be something you pull out the archives. Like,
Right.
you get to a point and you're just like, hey, we'll do this there. And I appreciate that. Now, you have a blog and we do a shameless plug. Could you please tell the audience where they can find this blog?
Yes, I actually have two blogs.
Or
I
two, I'm
have,
sorry.
yes, tylerwittkofsky.com, which is my mental health and marketing and writing blog. And we also have Adventure with Coffee, which is adventurewcoffee.com. And that is my wife and I's travel blog. We travel the United States with our three dogs, Dutch, Belle, and Rocky. And we travel in a 31-foot RV. So we navigate life in a very small space. And we just kind of talk about lessons learned, and we do craft beer reviews and brewery reviews. And we've actually been to West Virginia to Fayetteville.
Oh,
And
yeah. Okay.
yeah, we went to a Free Fork, I believe it was. It's a brewery out there, but we do coffee, cafe reviews, restaurant reviews, things to do around these areas. So we are leaving for our first official trip on February 2nd, 2024. And we will be away from North Carolina, traveling across the Midwest until October of 2024.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Now, since we touched on that, we touched on the website, the blogs, we touched on the novel, we touched on the poetry. You've got some podcasts under your belt as a co-host of Porch, Parley, and Cook the Books podcast. You discuss different trends that promote civil decisions that people make in today's fast-paced digital world, and how you strive to bring back civility in discussions on your podcast. Appreciate that. And that's a little, I got to give a shout out to my people because they do hard research too on that part. So with two podcasts being a co-host, how does that work? And this part right here, we used to do an episode called Podcast Collides, where we would talk about the actual infrastructure of a podcast. So how do you have time to do both of them and do all this stuff and then take care of the rest of the world?
So Back Porch Parlay is on a bit of a hold.
Okay.
With me and my buddy Matt, we now traveling, we've got to figure out the logistics of doing remote. He's not great with technology, I'll just be honest. So I'm trying to teach him things before we leave on these computers. Love you, Matt, but you're just not that great with technology, buddy. So I'm trying to teach him these things and get back on track. And we're going to start doing monthly episodes. And with the Cook the Books podcast, it is every other week that we record. So what I'll do is I'll schedule my recording date for the same time just during the first week of that month instead of, so it's still, my days are taken up for podcasting on that day. So I know I'm not making plans for that day. I do the same thing. I dedicate so let's say Tuesdays are my podcasting days for the week. Wednesdays are my blogging days. Thursdays are my content creation. Fridays are my strictly tea with coffee media, which is my indie publishing company. And then Mondays are for the Wittkofsky company. And typically I'm working on the Wittkofsky company because that's my main source of income right now. It is a PR and marketing company.
Okay.
We specialize in nonprofits and higher education. And we, it's a team of me. I say we, but it's a team of me, and I focus on that Monday through Friday, and even sometimes on Saturdays and Sundays. But I think the biggest thing to know is that I'm able to do this because I love what I do. It doesn't feel like work, being able to write these blogs, because what is included in these travel blogs? Going to the breweries and going to the cafes and the restaurants and the things to do and the campgrounds. And I'm actually getting to do these things and write about my experiences with tylerwittkofsky.com. I love doing the research. It's so fun to research and find these new things and be able to write these articles and give other people advice and hope and tips and tricks. Tea with Coffee Media, that's my baby. That's
Okay.
I want to make it. I want to make that the biggest success because there's so many authors out there who need to have their story told that don't have the funds or don't have the time or anything like that or the skills or the know-how. We sign these authors, we pay for everything for them. They don't pay us a dime. They get industry's best 65% royalty rate. So we only get 35% of sales from books, so over half of the sales go to the author. And we do marketing training for our authors. We even post it on our YouTube channel. We've really turned this into a hub for even self-publishing authors can come to us and get our services done or get our services for them at a very affordable price, compared to the industry standard. So we have our services for those self-publishing authors, but also for our authors. We're just trying to help as many authors as we can.
And I like that. And I'm glad that you put that in there because that actually took away one of my questions. So let me swing this one towards you. And this is about marketing and advertising. This is just something for everybody, content creators, and just anybody that has to do with that. I need your definition of marketing and advertising and how they correlate.
Marketing, the best way I've ever been told about marketing was from I was serving in college at the Applebee's in Leland,
Okay.
and I met a man we were talking about what I was going to college for, and he asked me, "What is marketing?" And I said, it's finding, selling stuff to people was basically how I put it. And he said, "No, it's finding out what your audience needs and delivering them their needs, not their wants." And I was like, wow. That's something powerful because people will buy their needs before they buy their wants every day of the week. So making it something that somebody needs is what, marketing is all about. Instead of making them want it and desire it, make them need it so they actually go out there and make that purchase or, buy your book or use your services. Advertising, the biggest thing I think of advertising as, I think a lot of people think of it as paid advertising, but advertising doesn't have to be paid. Advertising is how you get your name out there, how you show off. And I think about it a little bit as PR too. Advertising and PR kind of go hand in hand. And PR, I mean, public relations. But they go hand in hand as well. And they're all about getting your name in front of the right audience at the right times to make sure they're seeing your stuff. Now, of course, advertising and public relations, marketing, it all kind of is in the same sphere, but they are very, very different in the aspect of what they're used for and the styles. I mean, marketing, advertising, PR as a whole, it's not a magic trick. It's a full-blown science experiment. We put together a hypothesis, we test out test out certain theories to see what works, what doesn't work. We conduct tests. I mean, it's not a magic trick. There's a full-blown science experiment happening behind the scenes.
Ooh, and that sounds like a lot. It does sound like a lot to do. Now, another aspect I'd like to talk about is social media. Social media, people use it. I use it in this sense. I'll use it to leverage I use the platform to leverage, to connect to certain audiences. And then after I get them, I promote the work that I'm doing a little bit more efficiently once I get them. I don't promote mine that efficiently prior because I always find that you're going to have a huge drop off in certain platforms, depending if it's audio, video, whatever you're doing. So how do you connect with the social media platforms, the audiences, and then you promote your people's books, your stuff in general too, effectively for what you are doing?
Yeah, we actually have a vice president of marketing for Tea with Coffee Media, Kelsey Ann Lovelady. She handles all of our social media, so I'm not going to speak on Tea with Coffee social media, but I will, as far as my personal social media and, things such as Tea with Coffee Media and Adventure with Coffee, and clients of the Wittkofsky company, keeping up with all of those social media accounts. It's all about, for me, I have this big thing with the Wittkofsky company. It's not about followers, it's about engagement. So I
Yes.
want to, be able to give people useful tips that they can take away, be able to give them stuff that they will want to comment on and engage with and say, hey, I try to include things such as, one thing I love doing is I've got a website that has the days of the week or days of the year, just random holidays. And I love promoting these random holidays that are related to my personal brand or the Adventure with Coffee brand or the brand of whatever client I have, and using that to promote, say, hey, drop a picture of your dog on National Mutt Day. Here's mine. And just making people feel like I'm talking to them and I care. I try to reply to every comment that I get. And that also helps, especially with the algorithm, but also looking at, think about it. Whenever you're scrolling through Facebook, if a friend of yours or a page you like comments on something, it comes up in your feed. So there it is. Now you're coming up in your feed for maybe a second, third, fourth, fifth time. And they're like, oh, well, let me see what it is because this thing keeps popping up where, he's actually replying to everybody. It makes them feel good, makes them feel connected. And it's all about making it a personal. For me personally, I love making the brand into a human. So instead of saying we are a company, we are a person. We are here for you. We are connected to you. We care about you as a person and not just as somebody who is a consumer of our product.
Okay. Okay. Now, digging deep, a little bit deeper, so we're going to get this almost wrapped up here. What are some future endeavors that you can go on and talk to us about right now with all of your companies and everything that's going on? I know you told us about the big trip that's going on.
Yeah.
And obviously, when you get to Kentucky with the beer and everything, that's going to be insane. I don't know how you're going to handle that. I mean, I don't know I know you've already traveled to Kentucky before, but just being able to go Lexington to Louisville or just anywhere through that whole bourbon trail.
Yes.
What does the future look like for you?
I'm actually not a liquor guy.
Okay.
I battled, this is just a side note, but I battled addiction to liquor in college. So that is one thing that a lot of people find unique. I guess I could have mentioned this too, is I'm not a liquor drinker. I call myself sober from liquor, but I am a craft beer enthusiast.
Okay. And I can run with that. And I like the craft beer. So the great taste of when you go there, just to do a little quick side note, man, there's so many, because in Kentucky they have higher alcohol volumes in some of their beers. So you'll experience some of the great things. So all the breweries say, God, when you cross, if you go like the Asheville, North Carolina way, cut across that way, and keep going, oh my God, so that'll be amazing. Okay. So we come to a portion in the show where we pay homage to a news magazine called 2020. 2020 was a news magazine that had Barbara Walters, God rest her soul, John Stossel, he was a comedian, and Diane Sawyer, who was very poignant with her interview tactics. So in doing this portion, we're going to get more personable with you. So are you ready?
Yes.
All right. So the first question in life, and you are what we consider great at everything that you do in the world. So the question I have for you is, what do you define success as?
Success is becoming the best version of myself for my wife and my dogs. Being able to just be at the point where we're all taken care of, we're living comfortably, we have money to do the things that we want to do, but we don't have too much money that we don't know what to do with it. We want to live a simple life. We want to continue traveling around the United States, maybe with a bigger RV. I think that would be nice. Three full-size dogs and two adult humans in a 31-foot RV is not exactly the easiest, but being able to live comfortably and have money to do the things that we want to do, but not necessarily go overboard with things.
Okay. Okay. And I can dig that. Now, the next question. As a testament to who you are, if you had a billboard that, say, we put one in Greensboro, Fayetteville, Boone, North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina, all over North Carolina and the distinguished cities, because there are a lot of different cities and nice towns in North Carolina. You got to give the Tar Heels and the Blue Devils and Wolfpack and everybody else their dues, and the Mountaineers.
Seahawks.
Seahawks. Okay, no doubt in that too. So, what would your billboard state?
Here to help.
Here to help. Okay. Now, building off that expression, you go from there and you go on the ACC route. So you head up to Virginia. You're in Charlottesville. You head to Richmond. They got big cities too. So what would the billboard say in Virginia?
I think it would say the same thing. I'm here to help everyone. You know, I see the billboard as maybe a picture of me with kind of like the Got Milk font, but it just says here to help with a link to my website. And, now I'm going to put my link tree up there because my link tree has everything that you need to find about me. So I think that would be, just a giant picture of me here to help with, and because I'm here to help everybody and anybody. I tell this on every podcast, but if anybody is struggling, reach out to me on my social media and I will be there to talk to you. Like, I don't want anybody to ever feel alone. And if I can change that for somebody, if I make a difference in one person's life, then, I'm doing something worth living for.
Okay. And I like that. So our last question for you. We all have success. We all have failure. And to me, failure is lessons learned. It's a mistake that I needed to make to grow. What is your emphasis and what is your structure for failure?
There's a couple different facets to this answer. If that failure is just getting a no in life, no to me means next opportunity and being able to move forward and go on to that next opportunity. And I'm kind of like you. I don't believe that I make mistakes in life. I believe that I learn lessons in life, and learning from those lessons and growing as a human being is what it's all about.
Okay. And I like that. Now, the last part of the show, we like to take time to give thanks to the people that have helped us get to where we are. I heard some stories from you about family members, a companion, and then your dogs. So please take a moment and let these people know what they mean to you, because we don't always give people the flowers, when they're here. And sometimes we're right beside them and we're thinking we're giving them the flowers, but we're not giving them the flowers that they need with a certain intent. So please take that time, Tyler, and let them know.
Well, I want to take a minute to recognize two special people that we have lost over the past 3 years. We lost my brother-in-law, Christian. He passed away in a car accident back in 2020. And in April of 2023, we lost my grandfather. I called Grandy. And they were two very important people in my life, but also two very important aspects that inspired me to become better. And, their losses were driving factors in me wanting to become a better person and become, my version of success and figure out who I was helping and help as many people as possible. And as far as other people who can continue to inspire me to this day, obviously my wife, Grace, she is absolutely amazing. She is my best friend and my partner. We're a team. Everything we do together. We run these companies together, these blogs she helps me with. She's always encouraging me and supporting my dreams, and I'm always pushing her. She's actually going back to college to get her MBA, going back in March. So I'm so proud of her. My dogs, Dutch, Bell, and Rocky. I mean, Dutch and Bell have each saved my life at different points of darkness in my life. Rocky is Christian's dog, and we just adopted him a couple weeks ago. So he's very new to our family, but he's fitting right in, and he gives me a reason to wake up every day. My brother Justin and his wife Erin are fantastic. They read everything that I put out, all my blog posts. They listen to all my podcast. They read all my books. My brother, I put out a clothing collection on my website with my logo and different designs and things like that. My brother was the first one to buy something from the shop on my website. He's
Okay.
just, yeah, he's one of my best friends. Um, my grandmother, who I call Mama, she is my absolute, besides Gracie, my absolute best friend in my life right now. I talk to her 4 or 5 times a day on the phone. We go to see her once or twice a week, and she's just always inspired me to be more and to be better. She has encouraged me in my writing journey and has given me hope and given me faith and just really helped develop me into who I am today. Um, my mom, she was a single mom raising me and my brother, and she often second guesses herself, but she is an absolutely amazing mother, and I would never trade her for the world. And I think I tell her all the time that if I would have had a different mom, I probably would have went and punched them in the face and found her. Um, you know, that's how much she means to me. And then my friends Matt and Taylor, they have always been very special to me. And Emily, she is my wife's best friend, but has slowly developed into one of my best friends, and we've gotten really close. So that's my circle of people that mean the most to me in my life right now.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Now, one thing I do on the show, I'll give a testament to the person that comes on the show to be interviewed. So here we go, real quick. So Tyler, fortitude, that's your middle name. Vulnerability is what you wear as your gold chain around your neck. Being able to show those things as part of your fortitude, you decided that, hey, I'm going to let the world see this expression of who I am and understand that it is all right to express what goes on in your mind. Mental health is not a taboo. And to do that, you get amazing praise from me, and you're going to get amazing praise from everyone around the world. And I hope you're already getting amazing praise, because it is very hard to do that. As men, we are taught to be fortified, built like a Ford truck, and ride like a Chevy, but look like a Toyota, and or a Nissan, whatever you want to drive. No Hondas, no Honda truck.
No, we don't do Hondas.
Yeah, other people, another time. But the thing is that that's real incredible of you. So I want you to take that, wrap that up, put it inside whatever type of sandwich you eat, a pastrami sandwich, whatever. Make that to be the cheese that keeps your body fortified and keeps you strong. Because there's not a lot of people like you. People come out here and finagle the bagel and will put on airs and put on facades to embrace mental health for a certain degree, but they won't go into deep depths like you're doing. So thank you for that, and keep please doing that. The next thing, being able to be an advocate in so many different areas, and every little thing you do. When you see the background behind you, you're an advocate in every single thing that you do. Sorry about that on the mic, but being an advocate is a hard thing to do too, because you're going to take flack. And if you don't have a strong back, if you're not built like Shrek and don't have layers, you won't last. And you're lasting. You got through the dark period, and you know what it's like to go up and down. You know the climax, you know the falling, you know the rising action. Not everybody gets to those points, because some people get to certain points and certain things end. And I'm not talking about death or anything. I'm just talking about some people's mental health, well-being. They just stop and they fall into that mental area and they stay there. They become medicated to a certain degree, because I'm not talking about chemical imbalances or anything like that. I'm talking about some people get medicated to the point where they are not themselves. You have proven to the world that, hey, it is all right. Embrace who you are, be who you are, and let people know that this exists. Let people know that this is not just a clinical study at Johns Hopkins University going on, and someone writes something into a medical journal and tells you, hey, this is how patient A or B does. No, you're a living proof that you can deal with anxiety. So on that note, I want to tell you thank you.
Thank you. That means the world to me.
And as great of an episode this is, I want everybody to know that you'll be able to check out the show notes. Show notes will be amazing. We'll have every bit of information to where you can get in touch with him. The amazing link tree is what we'll definitely be throwing on there. So I want everybody to definitely get a hold of this man, get a hold of his tribe, get a hold of his community, and become a part of that, because this is the stuff that we need in the world right now. This is the culture that we need to bring about to get people to know that it's all right to express yourself, but express yourself in what's going on with you, not in what's the trend or what's this net. Your actual mental being. That's what people want to know about. Nobody cares about the looks or the appearance. We want to know what the inside look like. We want to know how you function, and you're doing that. So on that note, I'm JR, and you're?
Tyler Wittkofsky.
And we are signing off from West Virginia Uncommonplace.
Please follow WV Uncommonplace on Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, TikTok, where we have some great content, Facebook, LinkedIn. Hit up the merch store at uncommonplace.square.site. Join the email list from the website, and rate, subscribe, and give feedback from your favorite podcatcher. And lastly, thanks for listening, and tune into the next episode.